after having tried a couple of projects like Qui Parle and the Tower thing, where I was really into, and also another one which was called Chronique de la Mer Gelée. I mean, all those things. I wanted to involve more and more of my interest in literature in general, and trying to do it in different ways, you know. I really had that itch for a singer like what I liked when I was a kid, you know, and a band, you know, and also I wanted to make it my way, which means that I don't sing myself. So if I write songs for somebody, it's not gonna be a song that I comp or that we comp for, you know, with a singer up front, you know, and going back and forth between a verse and a chorus or something, you know. I wanted a more with a wider range of expression, you know. So this is how I started this shout thing.
And how in the grave all lamps shall sleep. Love is
When I found those Robert Frost poems, at first I thought it had something that I really could relate to, meaning the landscape. I mean, not the landscape he describes, you know, but his words bring to life a feeling, you know, something that, of course, for instance, Shakespeare deals with people dying, fighting, getting mad, falling in love and everything, but you don't know anything about where they live, for instance, at all. That's why it's so brilliant, because you know it was set on the Globe Theatre with nothing, you know. You can still play Hamlet or whatever, you know, with no stage props, no nothing, you know. It still stands on its feet, so to speak, you know. Whereas the Frost poetry is vivid. It's really American. I mean, it's like it brings, before it brings an image, the language brings that feeling of cold winter, for instance, you know, of ice, you know, icy, you know, like frozen ground, you know, frozen earth, this kind of stuff, and it rings, and lots of it. That might be why he's so famous. Lots of the words actually ring like they should in cold air, or you know, or in the rain, where for that matter, you know, it's just like it's immensely vivid in terms of writing. So I thought that called for music which relates to that. You know, I had tried like maybe 3 different approaches. You know, I thought relating to the way the words were written in you know, Kafka or first, and then Nabokov, and then Shakespeare. Now with Frost, and to a lesser extent with Samuel Beckett, because we also use 3 of Beckett's poems, and I think I'm gonna still plow into Beckett's poetry, which is really deep and dark, but it brings instant images, memories, and everything of real things, of real life feelings, So that calls for music. And I thought, instead, I just left it as is. We don't play those games that we were like practicing together, this kind of stuff, because I don't think Frost doesn't have that at all, in his writing and everything. He doesn't play games. He doesn't try to be smart like Nabokov does, for instance, or show off how smart he is, I try to write music which I hope conveys that feeling. We're playing Fire and Ice, and I hope it conveys that feeling of, ice. I mean, that's the way I hear it, and this amazing The Road Not Taken, which I gather is a very famous poem in America, in the States, which is a masterpiece of condensed, feeling and conveys everything he wanted to put in it, I thought, you would have to be, I don't know, Schubert maybe, or somebody, or Webern, to achieve the same kind of condensed feel of so many things, actual real things, real life things, and feelings which are our own, which means they change all the time, and it's a decision, but it's not, because it's also change, something like that. I thought the only way to do it was that the voice would sing the lines, the words, but we would expand the music underneath, so that those 2 roads, and that decision to go explore one road that is not as beaten as the other one, I thought it called for a longer piece.
Deep sleep of lovers that are dead, and how in the grave all lambs shall sleep. Love is
one of the things that has been difficult for me is to find precisely those different ways to break the verse, the meter in Frost, for instance, and I guess there would be 1 or 2 more that I could write music to, but that would be enough for me, because otherwise I would fall into a repetition of the same patterns, and I don't like that. That's why I turned to another writer, and I found that Samuel Beckett, whom I worship for his novels, or whatever you call them, or short stories, I had never read his poetry, which is something that he did when he was younger, and I found in Beckett's poems a very interesting balance, to counteract even when Frost is dark, he's dark in a very balanced and no, not philosophical, but he's seen it all, and you can see it. He's at peace with those things, those bad things sometimes that he described. He's looking at them with a certain kind of peace of mind. Maybe he's old now or something like that, you know. Whereas Beckett is an angry person, and he's not at peace at all with the world, and his poetry is dark and full of anger and uneasy, and you can feel instantly that he's trying to shake something out of his back, you know. He's really like, he's, you know, wriggling with, you know, like really trying to get something out. And I thought it was a good balance, and I treated it like that. The one that we're playing, which is called All Day I Hear, which is, I mean, the writing borders on madness, you know. It's really like, all day I hear the noise.
All day I hear. All day I hear the noise.
The one that we're playing with the Sinfonietta is called I Hear an Army, and it's really a kind of science fiction nightmare, you know. It's really like it's like a nightmare, you know. It borders on Kafka's sometimes, you know, nightmarish feeling about something's really wrong. It just takes a little more time and care to discover, to play the detective, as you say, you know, and to discover the internal relationship sometimes in a book, in any kind of work of art, but also in music, you know. And if at first you think somebody is really very, you know, like straightforward spoken, and you know, this is playing, this is okay, he or she is telling me a story, you know. But then most of the times underneath there are things that are really lurking, you know, under the surface. Anybody who's into shape obviously hides, you know, like stuff inside the shape, you know, always, all the time. That's what I do all the time, you know. It keeps referring to this and that, and sometimes it's even a little too much to explain. There is one poem by Frost that we play, I mean that I put into music. It's the shortest of the songs. It's called Acquainted with the Night. I gather it's a very, very famous poem in the States. It's beautiful. It's really so well crafted and built, you know, that I had to provoke a certain resonance, you know, between the words and the chords and the sounds. So when it really gets close to that the time was neither good nor bad. It's the night, and the night is. I couldn't help thinking of Joni Mitchell. I mean, for me, that's the instant spark. The connection. So my chords underneath, very quickly for 1.5 bar, quote one of Joni Mitchell's songs in The Hissing of Summer Lawns. Because that's the things I was trying to talk about. It's that kind of shade, sometimes, and anyway, it would not be interesting to go through bar after bar, but that's basically how it speaks to me. And anybody would answer me, yeah, but I mean, it's only you, and even someone who's familiar with Joni Mitchell might not recognize it. I don't care. I mean, it's just there, I'm moved by repetition in itself. It's stupid to say. I think there is magic in people will tell you about the mantra recitation or stuff like that. I truly believe that there is a magic in repetition. Like, just take any amateur theater company rehearsing a play which might not be the best in the world. Everybody's just like learning their roles and everything, and then there's this and that, and they rehearse and rehearse and rehearse, and then something gets loaded once again. Something gains weight just for the sake of being repeated. So I think that is just a law that I can feel. This again and again and again. So that in itself is moving for me. When you add a meaning to it, then it wins me totally. That's one thing that I would do over and over again, and presenting it with different musicians helps me, shape the music differently. What we just did today, for instance, with Niels playing electric bass, and of course I managed so that the parts don't necessarily double, as well as on top of that it's the voice, so the horns have two different parts. One when there's no voice, vocals, and one when there are vocals, So they switch from one part to another. And today, for instance, we heard their part with the vocals, so that version, and Niels decided to play electric bass on some stuff, whereas the last time we played he was playing double bass, and the whole music changes. I mean, not only them, but what we do changes also, because it bounces back constantly. If I have this big grounded electric bass tone, I'm going to play completely differently, and everybody's going to play differently. never play the same. If you play exactly the same material with nobody in the hall, and you try to play it exactly the same way with 50 people in the room, it's not the same music. It can't be. And I have a tendency to emphasize that part of it, because that's basically what we are after. Of something that vibrates. Between us. Something that vibrates. Really like light or like air. It really vibrates. And sometimes, after all, we do, we work, we practice, all that stuff, and sometimes we could maybe get, lose that feeling of vibration, between me and you, really like those sounds that I'm making travel through the air and make your ear vibrate. This is all vibration, and sometimes we might have a tendency to, I'm practicing this, I should be better at that, I'm writing this and try, and we kind of lose sometimes consciousness that this all boils down to sharing something together, that's the way I see it,
I hear an army charging upon the land. Thunder of horses splurging foam about their knees. Arrogance in black armor, behind them stand, disdaining the reins with flowing whips. The child is.
If the work is strong enough, which I'm not sure about myself, but if the word is, the work is really stand on its ground, good enough, it's fantastic sometimes. You get really surprised, really. And let me just mention one example because I love it. It's a French film. It's called Les Diaboliques in French. It's Henri-Georges Clouzot. He did that in late 40s, early 50s, something. One guy has been drowned by his wife and his mistress, who did it together, and they run a school. He was the director of the school. His wife is a teacher in that school. His wife is very frail. She doesn't like being a murderess, and she's very anxious and everything. And they drowned him into a pool, into the school pool. And there's one scene. If you watch the movie, she is teaching a class, an English class, to the pupils, who are very, very young, pupils, and she's like this because her back is to a window, and through the window you can see somebody is dredging the pool. They made it on purpose because they want people to find the body, so that they know he's drowned. So you can see this guy who's dredging the pool. So she's aware, that something's happening, and she's very nervous. And at the same time, she's in class, in English class, with the irregular verbs with the kids. The first time you see that movie, you see that, you're hooked on her being like, like that, like this. She's nervous, blah blah, and that's what you see, And then you move on to the next scene, The second time you watch the movie, maybe, something, or it happened to me the third time, to just listen to what the kids are reciting, And this is magic, because it's the irregular verbs, which everybody has tried in English, of course in alphabetical order, And so the minute the camera is on her, she says, okay kids, so, and the guy is dredging, and I tell again, the guy must have, drowned. So what are the words? Only 2 words, and I checked out, there's only 2 solutions. That solution, and another one, which could have occurred that way. She's just like that, and she says, okay, children, again, to fall, and they answer, I fell, fallen. And she said, okay, next, to find, I found, found. This is magic, because the first time you watch the movie, you might not be keen on, those relationships and all, but do you think he just picked any random, that's impossible. That's what I call loading the stuff with some, some correspondences, weight, something that is really, that makes sense.
Was